RWBY, you beautiful train wreck. You started out with so much promise, but the further into the show we get, the more problems arise and the more I have to complain about. Volume 1 was a disconjointed Flash project just getting on its feet, but it had interesting ideas and characters that we were just getting started exploring. Volume 2 didn't really offer a whole lot in terms of plot, but I appreciate it for the character interactions and depth we got into with them, even if the volume did end off on one of the most disappointingly boring endings of all time. And Volume 3 pushed the show in a new direction, but at the cost of pre-established continuity and also at the cost of the action scenes. Volume 3 felt like we were trying to tell an entirely different story on top of what was already established and try to find a way to tie them together with admittedly poor results. And the fact that only 1 or 2 fights of the whole volume were actually any good didn't really help matters. Now, obviously the death of show creator Monio didn't help production in any way, but with his passing it felt like the remaining creators were trying to break away completely from what was being set up in the first 2 volumes in terms of characters and plot. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Volume 4 is the beginning of what is technically considered to be Season 2 of the show, which is a format that I will never for the life of me get used to because after 4 years to only be on the 2nd season is absurd. Not only do we get a new animation change, switching from Poser to exclusively Maya, but also a story change. Our 4 heroines and their random companions are now scattered to the winds in different parts of the globe, each looking for something different, while the villains continue their plans for global domination. Or something along that line. So we start the season off with showing how the Grimm come to be, I guess. They're born from puddles of stuff? Already I have to go on a tangent in regards to the new animation, and that's because I'm really not sure if I like it or not. There are stuff I like about it, like faces are more expressive and it looks shinier, and there are also things that I dislike, like movement and combat is really awkward. There's a lack of texture in buildings, clothing, nature, etc. And even in the things I like and the things I dislike, there are inconsistencies. Like right here. Mercury looks terrible. Maybe it's the eyebrows, maybe it's that his face looks like it was made a Newgrounds Flash project over whatever they were doing for the rest of the season, or maybe it's just the bad lighting that is the demon world, but the new animation does not complement him. We then meet our new villains and find out that Cinder is still alive, and has looked better. But, I mean, I never really thought she was dead because, let's be honest, that was a terrible way to kill off your main villain of 3 seasons. Although I feel like she should have lost the other eye given the positioning of the character to the blast, but I digress. Anyway, Mustache Man taunts her, but then the demonic version of Virginia Madsen from Dune, God, I still can't believe I called that 3 years early, arrives to begin the Legion of Doom meeting.
What? Do you find such malignance necessary?
Damn it. Okay, granted, but I don't think that was the right use of the word in the context of that sentence.
So I'm curious. To what failures are you referring?
I mean, do you want me to make a list? In fact, let's just recap Cinder's entire plan real quick. She wants the Maiden's power for some reason we don't understand other than rule the world for unknown reasons. She botched the first attempt and alerted the protectors of Vale and Atlas to the plan that the villains are trying to abduct the powers of these demigods. She has Rowan Torchwick steal all the dust in Vale for reasons, probably for those bombs in the train, whatever. She hacks into the Vale Atlas mainframes, which are just about the only truly competent thing she's done so far, although it makes the good guys look like idiots for not noticing it, or at the very least not doing a routine McAfee scan to make sure their software was virus-free. She tried to have the Grimm invade Vale the first time, even though the plan of Volume 3 completely contradicts why they needed to do that, and for some reason that was deemed a colossal failure on Ozpin's part.
Perhaps Ozpin felt as though defeating Atlas in the tournament would help people forget his colossal failure to protect Vale when the Grimm invaded its streets.
Yeah, I need to diverge for a second because I'm still kicking myself for not mentioning this walking talking plot hole in the last review. I think I was trying to convince myself that this line was a mistake, like there was no way that the writers truly believed what they were writing. Colossal failure. That fight was over in the span of 30 seconds by a devil-wearing Prada wielding a fucking minigun. Was it the failure of the Grimm even being allowed to enter the city? Okay, fine, but it left no lasting consequence on the city or its inhabitants. They went on business as usual the next day. If anything, this fight proved the overall success of both Ozpin's combat school and Atlas's robot military. Anyway, the plan for the Grimm gets activated by 2 incidences, one of which was blown way out of proportion, the other a straight-up murder of a robot girl, both handled by her 2 incredibly incompetent henchmen that pretty much out themselves to the main heroine in the process, not that she actually does anything with it. And then, when she finally gets all of the Main's powers, she holds on to them for all of 20 minutes before she gets completely blown away by a Deus Ex Machina. So overall, I have to rate this plan a solid 3.8 to 4. I don't know, it's really hard to rate this on any sort of scale, and the audience was left completely in the dark as to what the villains were doing and why they were trying to do it for 2.5 volumes. Oh fuck, we're still in the first scene, aren't we? Shit, alright, yeah, let's keep going.
You hold the key to our victory. But your newfound strength brings with it a crippling weakness.
Are there any upsides to being a maiden? Like, at all? Because so far all I've seen are negatives. They get found easily, they basically get their entire lives torn away from them, they can be defeated easily by 3 misfits from bumfuck wherever the hell, and especially by a 15-year-old girl with odd-colored eyes. What are the pros here? The power of the elements? Fuck a doodle-doo. And I'm sorry, but I have to go back to this because it still bugs the shit out of me. Why does the Fall Maiden have the power of the other seasons? No, seriously, I want you to stop and think about this. Really, really think about this for a second. What is the point of having 4 girls representing the 4 seasons if they all have the exact same powers? What is supposed to differentiate fall from winter, spring from summer? Why not just have 1 girl that represents all 4 seasons and have all 4 seasons' power? Like, this isn't hard. Have 1 girl with all the powers of the seasons, or 4 girls with the powers corresponding to their respective seasons. It's simple.
Clear, we just need to pick a fucking number, any fucking number. Give that fucking number to the fucking press and go to fucking bed. I mean, how much more clarity do you need? You want to print it on a fucking t-shirt? Come on.
You know something? If Salem wanted the powers of the maidens on her side, why does she only have 1 female lieutenant? Even if you want to include Emerald, that still leaves 2 open spots. Why isn't her staff filled with young women instead of these 3? I mean, I guess it's so that they could get Chris Sabat and Josh Greeley on the show, but if having Funimation actors is some kind of criteria now, just get 3 women characters and hire Colleen Clickenbeard, Monica Ryle, and Kate Glass, and boom, now you've got 3 new villains and it fits with the context of the plot. Alright, I'm sorry, back to the scene. Time for villain roll call!
Dr. Watts, you are to take Cinder's play.
Whoa, hold on. There is only room for 1 Dr. Watts in the fictional universe, and that has already been taken by the greatest indie game of all time. So your new name is Dr. Chucklefuck, and you're gonna like it.
Tyrion, I want you to continue your hunt for the Spring Maiden.
Really? You named the obvious audience grab character after one of the most popular fictional characters of the 21st century? Subtle.
And Hazel, I'm sending you to the leader of the White Fang.
Hazel? You named the big burly man Hazel? That's like taking a giant mutated man-tiger, donning him in gladiator armor, and naming him Tiny. Oh, son of a bitch! So I have a question that I keep coming back to, and maybe it's one of those things you kind of just take for granted in shows like this, but it's worth asking anyway. Why are these people here? Why are they a part of this? Like, you have 6 relatively average-looking humans, and they're all taking orders from this being who clearly looks like she spawned from the depths of hell. Why are they in on this? What were they promised to get them to betray humanity? I mean, this guy I get more or less. He looks like he just wants to watch the world burn. The fuck are these 2 doing here? Especially if this guy's a doctor? Dude, you could be doing literally anything else with your life. Finding the cure for cancer, investing in Alzheimer's research, and instead you're here? Why?
Eye for an eye.
Okay, subtlety is not something they're going for with this guy, clearly. Hello, random child? Why do I feel like I've suddenly stumbled onto a Let's Play of Stardew Valley?
I'm just saying, there's more.
Whoa, no. What the fuck was that? This is not how you introduce a character. There's no context being provided here. It's just a random bastard doing farm chores. Who is he? Where are we? Why was this necessary to show us? Why was this necessary to show us right now? Who fucking cares? You know what the difference is between movies that start off like this and this scene? It's that we stay with those characters past the opening introduction and get to know them bit by bit. This is just, hey, here's another random fucking character in this densely overpopulated clusterfuck of a show. We're not going to give any context, and then we're just going to cut back to characters you actually care about. Like, sure, it causes speculation, but this is not a good way to go about it. For me, I just put them out of sight, out of mind. Fuck this kid. Who gives a shit? I know nothing about him. For all I know, he's slave labor. I mean, he's sleeping in a barn for fuck's sakes. Either he's slave labor or really is the bastard child of his family. I'm only like 7 minutes into this season and I've already found like 10 different things to go on tangents about. Can you see why this is multiple parts? Anyway, here we finally make our way back to Ruby's group named,
How can I be more clear? 1, 2, 3.
But we're helping Ruby with her objective. Wouldn't that make her the leader?
Orange. RRNJ, orange. Like, really? I mean, I know Ranger Green is a thing, but come on, orange, it's right there. Why make things complicated for yourself? If it's supposed to be based off some sort of color scheme, and if it is, if Ozpin's speech from Volume 2 is any indication, then just name it orange and call it a day. Like, this really isn't that hard. Anyway, first fight scene in the volume, and it's, well, it's not terrible. At the very least, it's better than most of the fights from last volume, but it's still not a RWBY fight, you know? Like, I don't understand how hard it is to find someone who understands fight choreography the way Monty did. Like, not even try to emulate his style, but just who understands how to choreograph a fucking fight. But hey, at least we get to see how much of a strategist Jaune has become.
Guys, I got it! We hit it harder.
Bravo. A whole year of combat school, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it gets you.
You'll be fine without a weapon. You're the strategist.
Why did they go attack this monster with one of their members unequipped? Why didn't they wait until after Jaune got his gear back? Like, they've never seen a Grim like this before. What makes them think they can take it on with a man down? I know I'm preaching to the choir here because Jaune normally is as useful as wet bread, but still. Imagine if this was Seraph of the End and you left his sword behind for polishing just as they went on a mission to kill some vampires. They'd be fucking eviscerated. For context, going against this Grim without a full team is like Levi's squad taking on the female Titan with a man down. And spoiler alert, that didn't go well. And they all knew what the fuck they were doing, and they knew how to function as a team. And we don't know how well Orange fights as a team because, say it with me, we didn't see anything that happened in the half a year between volumes. I mean, I wouldn't exactly call this a good example of their teamwork. It's more just 3 people doing their own thing. No one's giving orders, and the one line that's said in order to help another member gets shot down literally half a millisecond later by this member rushing in head first. This isn't Brothers in Arms, it's more like a fucking Call of Duty match with randoms.
Whoa! Whoa! Hey, be careful!
Yeah, in other news, Jaune is still fucking useless. Oh, what the fuck was that? Are you kidding me? So we get to see clean decapitations, a monster getting ripped in half down the middle in a hail of gunfire, a scorpion completely disintegrated, but a single sniper shot to the dome. That's too graphic for modern audiences? Fuck you. So RWBY and the remains of Juniper have spent the last half a year basically earning a huntsman's wage, taking odd jobs to pay their way to Mistral, which, yeah, sounds legit. At the very least, it's enough to give Jaune's gear a bit of an upgrade.
There you go, son.
What is it?
What is that?
What, my hoodie?
Really? She's never seen his hoodie? I mean, I know soldiers in the field don't take their clothes off very often, but never at Beacon? Like, there was never a moment coming back from the bathroom late at night where she might have seen his hoodie? That just seems really unlikely. Why is this scene still going? It wasn't that funny. So how much of pure shit did they melt down for this? Like, I've heard it was her tiara, but were the shield and spear melted in there as well? Because I don't think he'd get all that from just her tiara. Here's another question I have. Why does this guy still have a business? No, really, think about it. The White Fang was at least partially responsible for the fall of Beacon. The world knows at least some of what happened that night, according to Yang.
Before the tower fell, the last thing people saw was Atlas attacking innocent people and Grim destroying the city.
You can't expect me to believe the rest of the population saw the Atlas military gunning down civilians, but not the White Fang leading Grim into the city. I mean, you can't sneak those guys in subtly. We've established that the faunus of the world are not treated fairly, otherwise why would the White Fang even exist? So if this really was the racist, faunus-hating world that we've been led to believe, and the knowledge that the White Fang was involved with the fall of Beacon, which we know they do because of being broadcast on the news, this guy's smithy should have been razed to the ground. In fact, I'm still waiting for any examples of fauna suppression in this world, because we're 4 years in now and I still really haven't seen anything. And no, a girl getting her ears pulled by the school bully who already hates everyone regardless of their species doesn't really count. And I can hear some people saying, Tom, are you really advocating for racial violence in a show aimed at a younger audience? Well, if you're gonna set it up to be a crucial part of your world, then yeah, I am. The White Fang must still exist for a reason. If the Faunus are being treated fairly, they shouldn't still be an active force in the world of Remnant, not on this level anyway. Yet we see Faunus owning businesses and walking around society with no negative repercussions. Like, I'm pretty sure this guy is waking up to a cross burning on his front lawn. Faunus brutality should be at an all-time high in retaliation for the biggest humanitarian disaster since Mountain Glen. Anyway, they're still on their way to Haven, apparently the tower is still down, and God, whoever designed the CCTV towers was a fucking asshole.
If one of the 4 towers is taken offline, the entire network fails with it. A slight inconvenience.
Yeah, that's a minor inconvenience. I'd love to see what a major inconvenience would be. Like, I know the current tower location is currently the home of a grim spawning hellspawn, but how long would it take to make some kind of replacement tower? Apparently longer than half a year because comms are still down. I gotta say though, the world seems to be doing just fine without the towers. I don't see any mass riots at any rate. We then visit Weiss and Atlas, where she is summoned to see her father. On the way, she runs into...
Good afternoon, sister.
Wait, he's her brother? Oh, God. Okay, here we go. When Weiss was introduced, she was introduced as the heiress to the Schnee Dust Company, meaning the company was going to be hers once old man Schnee stepped down, or was poisoned by arsenic, whichever came first. Now, normally when dealing with inheritance of positions of power, the line of succession usually starts at either the eldest child or the first male. Weiss is neither of those. That wasn't a problem when she was an only child, but now she has both an older sibling and a younger sibling that is also the first male of the family. I assume she's like heir presumptive or something, because otherwise Weiss should be the last one in line to inherit the company. I'm just saying, it's a simple Google search.
I heard Father shouting with someone in his study earlier.
Mother?
No, she's already drinking in the garden.
At this hour?
I think it was a man.
You think it was a man? You couldn't tell by the tone of voice?
You seem different.
And you've been gone. I'll have you know I didn't stop growing while you were away at Beacon.
Yeah, there is no comment in the world that could make that line any more awkward. Never mind the fact that they're talking as though this is the first conversation they've had since she got home, yet because of the time skip, she's been home for over half a year at this point. Hey, anyone else notice that Weiss is walking off in the opposite direction of where she was initially headed to? Just throwing that out there.
The council will never agree to it.
You forget. I hold 2 seats on the council.
Wait, I didn't know he could do that. Can he do that? Legally, can he do that? How did he even get 2 seats? Did someone die and he took it through show of force? Because that seems very undemocratic. Although I guess democracy goes out the window when you're a government run by the military.
Did you forget your manners while you were away?
And now they're talking as though this is the first conversation they've had since she's been back. Did Weiss just lock herself in her room for the last half a year? I thought she was based off Snow White, not Rapunzel.
Atlas is forbidden from exporting dust to other kingdoms. A precautionary measure, as he puts it.
Dust makes munitions. Munitions such as guns and bombs. Guns and bombs kill people. Stopping the export ensures that dust does not end up in the wrong hands. I'm not seeing a problem here. So Schnee has determined that with all the negativity in the world, the best thing to do would be to put Weiss on a pedestal and have her perform a concert, which one would think, with the looming apocalypse we're about to endure by the hands of demonic Virginia Madsen, Cinder Scorched Fall, and the Three Stooges, maybe the Schnee Dust Company should be investing their time and effort into, I don't know, something that might be beneficial to the world as a whole.
I always find he keeps his study dreadfully cold.
I think it's to balance out all his hot air.
Yeah, we're laughing about this now, but when Papa Schnee gets found dead due to cyanide poisoning, guess who they're gonna look to first? Hint. Not Weiss.
Ah, there's my happy little snowflake.
Thank you, Klein.
Oh, J. Michael Tatum. You are way too good for this show, but I appreciate you being here nonetheless. Can we just get Weiss and her butler out of this hellhole? Because this family situation is entirely suffocating and completely abusive. I mean, the father is a money-grubbing, gaslighting douchebag, the mother is presumably a drunk, the older sister is an emotionally abusive woman with veins cold as ice, and I'm pretty sure the brother is plotting to have her killed so he can be next in line to inherit the company. Seriously, this kid is creepy. Back to Team Orange, I do appreciate this scene because it shows the downside to adventuring the countryside in a world where monsters kill anyone who gets pissy over losing a poker match. It shows that despite the best efforts of the huntsmen, sometimes they're just too late to be of any good. Also, I see that regular bodies don't disintegrate when they die, so suck it, Brennan and Rob, I was right. Although this system is fucked on every conceivable level once you get into the world of Remnant. Basically, the villages get butt-fucked via double penetration with no lube, first by bandits and then by Grimm. How is there any civilization outside of the kingdoms with this system in place? Maybe somebody should let the kingdoms know about the rampant bandit problems happening within their borders? Get some huntsmen out there on the regular? I'm just saying. Also, how these bandits don't get wiped out by the Grimm, I have no idea. I guess they must take a lot of pleasure in murdering people. Also, I'm pretty sure they're setting something up between Ruby and Jean. Just a hunch. I've seen this trap too many times not to recognize it. Holy shit, are they actually setting up a storyline for Ren and Nora? They're not just going to be supporting characters or weird comic relief? Wow, only took them 3 fucking years. Then again, it took them 2.5 to pull an actual plot out of their asses, but I mean, it's weird that you have 8 main characters and we literally know nothing about 2 of them for the entire first 3 volumes. Example of Maya that I like. This environment looks pretty.
All right, Jean. Just like we practiced.
This scene got so many people into tears, and I'll admit, it's a really nice scene, and the new animation really adds a lot to not only Jean listening to this message, but also Ruby feeling pity for him. My exhaustion of Jean as a character aside, the Jean-Pierre storyline is one of the only storylines that got fully fleshed out over the first 3 volumes. It's the only canon ship, quote-unquote, and it was cut tragically short by Pierre's untimely death, and Jean has to deal both with unresolved feelings towards Pierre and his sadness at the death of his partner. But while it's a beautiful scene with your brain turned off, I have to take you guys out of it with 2 questions that I feel need to be asked. 1, when did she record this message? And 2, why did she record this message? Assuming this takes place before the events of Volume 3, there was no point where Pierre was separated from the rest of her team. I know she's a renowned fighter, but we never saw or heard anything about her having to leave school in any kind of mission, so it wouldn't seem like she would ever be separated from her team. And no, I don't want to hear that she did it off screen. If it's not established in the show, it doesn't count. Given the tone of the message, and let's face it, judging by the animation, I have to assume this was recorded during Volume 3. And given the ending of it, I think it's meant to imply that this was recorded after she found out about the maidens. But when did she have the time to do that? Given that we don't have a sense of passage of time in this show, we can assume that the time she found this out and her death was about a couple hours, maybe? And she was staying pretty busy during that entire time. There was a lot going on. So the question I ask is, if this was recorded before Volume 3, why did she bother if she wasn't going to be separated from Jean and wouldn't need to record this tape for him? And if this was recorded during the events of Volume 3, well, when did she find the time to do it? I'm sorry, I just don't get why this tape exists in universe. So I guess what I can say is, if you don't think about it too hard, then this scene is fantastic. But I feel you can say that about all of RWBY. I mean, I just went on these massive tangents and all these different things, and I'm sure the majority of you don't even really care about it all that much. And I envy you, I really do. I mean, I wish I could just turn my brain off and watch this show normally, but I can't. I'm just not programmed that way, and the further into RWBY we get, the worse these questions get, and the worse it becomes. I didn't even bullshit any of these things I've talked about. Like, everything I have just said was literally what I was thinking as I was watching these episodes. I'm not even a quarter of the way through this volume yet. I'm gonna fucking die. But hey, once we get past the introductory stages with where the characters are now, I can blow through a good chunk of the season, so don't worry too much about me dragging ass.
Don't forget to keep your front foot forward.
As opposed to front foot backward? Makes about as much sense as anything else on this show.